This is The Second Studio, hosted by the Architecture and Design Office fame. My name is David Lee, and with me is Marina Borderonay. The two of us are architects, partners at the office, and of course, hosts of the show. Today, it's the two of us and a fellow designer episode. We're going to answer questions from listeners. Now, we're not going to get through all of them. And the reason why we're not going to get through all of them is because there's a handful. And there's a handful because my app on my phone used to ding when I got a message. It stopped dinging as of like 6 months ago. So some of these questions are kind of outdated. I'm going to do my best to reply to these people and say, hey, do you remember that you messaged our hotline 6 months ago? And we finally answered your question, which is no longer relevant because you moved on in life.
Probably.
You probably left architecture by now. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Sponsors. Spreadsheets can't bring your designs to life, but Programma can. Say hello to a bespoke integrated software suite built by and for experienced architecture and design professionals. Use your Pinterest image library to build collaborative mood boards, then turn them into shared online presentations with a click using Programma's pin boards. Use the Programma Web Clipper to build a centralized specification library for your studio. Share always up-to-date specifications and product schedules with clients, trades, and colleagues by generating beautiful, branded, live links, and client dashboards. Programma's clean, minimal interface allows your work to shine. Start for free and save 25% on annual plans at programma.design/Second Studio. The Second Studio is brought to you by Chaos. They make award-winning design and visualization tools, and they're really pushing the boundaries with AI. As we all know, AI is shaking up the architecture and design world, and Chaos is taking a responsible approach. Their tools are built to help architects, designers, and visualization specialists work faster and explore more ideas without replacing creativity. Basically, Chaos wants AI to make your imagination stronger and not take over, so you get to design with more freedom, create stunning visuals, and stay in control of your work. If you want to see what that looks like, tap the Chaos link in our show notes. This is The Second Studio. Here we go. We're going to answer questions from listeners. Do you want to hit us with the first one?
The message goes, Hi Marina and David. We have chatted a few times, but our last chat was about a builder I worked for. Well, I have great news. Earlier this year, I was hired at an architectural firm that does a certain types of projects.
Not residential. Larger scale work.
No.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful experience, and I recently got a raise. But with this, I'm experiencing a serious case of imposter syndrome. Although I am close in age with many of my coworkers, I'm the least experienced and still in school. The raise that I was given feels like too much, and that I'm not living up to that. Since having started earlier this year, every day has been a learning opportunity, and it is only now that I've been able to contribute even the smallest of ideas. It's an interesting experience to go from feeling undervalued and taken advantage of to being paid well and appreciated, and my fear is that I won't live up to their expectations or my own within a reasonable amount of time. With all of that, moving from a small builder to a firm that has been a transition in every way imaginable, from etiquette to verbiage to the process of making a change order and field verifying. I know I won't always have this imposter syndrome, but it has been a heavy chip on my shoulder the last few months. Thank you for all the time you've taken to speak with me. Each conversation, no matter how small, has been extremely helpful. From our first chat, where I had just gotten accepted into an architecture program, to our last chat about how to handle my builder and how to see the value in myself as a designer.
Samantha Smith. No, that's not her name.
Well.
Brandon Smith.
Jane Doe.
Jane Doe. Yeah, those are not real names.
No. I'm sure there's people who are named that.
Jane
that
Doe?
Sucks. Yeah.
Is there a Jane Doe, you think? That'd be horrible.
I'm sure.
I'm
sure
you're a hitman,
some parents are not thoughtful, or they did it on purpose. Yeah, so that is it's interesting to kind of follow up the life of our listeners, through those messages and kind of see what you all are up to and changes you're doing and all of that. And I think it's probably one of the first time we've heard someone be like, I'm basically overpaid and I'm underqualified. I don't feel like I deserve what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Especially in the field of architecture. I'm sure it exists plenty in other fields, but in the field of architecture, it doesn't happen to be that common. So It is very interesting. So what would you say to Samantha Smith?
So for some context, I was trying to remember and recall how much experience this person has. Just for the sake of general context, I think they have a few years of professional experience at this point, but a lot of it was working for a GC. And working for a GC compared to an architecture office, like a real architecture office that does just architecture or design, is a completely different thing. So for some context and that on that, and people don't know, when you're an architect working for a general contractor doing effectively design build, that's why you'd be working there. If you're working as an architect for the GC, it's a design build operation. I don't mean to say that you happen to be an architect, but you're now doing project management for a GC. Like, you're acting as an architect plus other things for the GC. So in that capacity, it's different. Like the workflow within that type of business is different from an architecture office. The attention to detail is going to be different. The priorities are going to be different. The timeline and schedules is going to be different. How you vet stuff, how you how you ensure that you're making the right decisions is different. Like, everything's different if you're working for a builder in that capacity.
But do we know if she was designing, if the firm she was working at was a design build or just purely OGC?
Design build, from what I recall.
Oh.
Yeah. But I think in a lot of cases with design build, if you're an architect there, you're not just doing architecture because it's not enough. You're also doing project management and other things. But my point is that the workflow and the standards that you're used to in that business for the architecture portion, and also for like the project management portion, all of it is completely different than when you work for a traditional architecture office doing large scale work.
Because the line of communication between the architect and the GC is shortcutted.
Yeah, there's almost no,
Right?
Yeah.
It's like you tap the guy's shoulder that's behind you, you ask the question, boom, decision made. Like, there's no need for like a formal email, a phone call, or a site meeting. Like, it all happens in-house. So it
happens in-house, and also because there's more of the services under one umbrella, there's less concern about liability and less concern about mistakes being made because it's all under one business. Now, of course, you don't want to make mistakes, but like, if a person makes a mistake, then it gets fixed, and there's no finger pointing because we're going to finger point at your own business at the end of the day. And so, and I think the scale of work, I believe, if I remember, was smaller scale compared to what they're doing now. So it's a completely different situation to be in. When you work at a larger, I don't know the size of this new office, but I'm going to presume they're larger. When you work at a larger office doing larger work, there's consultants up the wazoo. There's a consultant for every single thing in the project.
The documentation process is a lot heavier.
Super heavy, super thorough, much more formal is another word that can be used in a good way and sometimes a bad way as well. Because like, as you can imagine, you have more people working together, more middle management, more politics, more this and that. They can get quite muddy pretty quick, and I've seen that firsthand. It's a completely different ball game. And I think that in that setting of that larger practice doing larger work, from my own experience, I would say I found it to be like a lot calmer in general. Smaller practices, especially design build ones, I think, are much more fluid and loose, like we were kind of alluding to. Things happen very fast, and your head is on a swivel because you're tasked with solving 6 different things. You're keeping track of 6 different things because it's a small practice, and you're doing design and construction. Big office, you're probably responsible for like one thing, and that's kind of it. And then there's a lot of other people doing a lot of other things when you're a junior level person.
But I feel like bigger office also work on bigger scale work.
Yeah.
And therefore, even if your level of stress is reduced to like a tiny portion of the whole project, you still kind of carry that with you, though, because you know that the stakes are a lot higher on those projects than
that's true.
The ones you work on at a small office.
That's true. I mean, where my head goes to is, for example, if we're comparing a type 5 house that's just a 2,000 square foot single family house, someone locates a beam or a wall in the wrong place, it's slightly off, fucking tear it down and build it back in half a day. It's type 5, it's 2x4, 2x6,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. On a big project, though, if someone made a boo-boo in coordinating HVAC with giant 3-foot deep beams, you have a serious problem. So yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. The stress is different, I guess.
But so
We haven't even answered the question.
No, we haven't. So what's interesting is she used to work for a builder who seemed to be probably design build. She got hired to this new firm, got given a raise. So that means they're probably valuing her joining their team and the skills that she's bringing to that team, right? But she feels like she hasn't really been able to contribute that much. So they're paying her well, but she felt like she's kind of like not performing as well as she feels like she should for that pay. I think, she said she started a few months ago, earlier this year. So you kind of have to...
It's soon.
You
it's
have
early.
to kind of give yourself some time. You're just starting in a new place. You have to find your marks. You have to understand how things work. You have to understand that new typology of projects you're working on that you might have not have any experience on. And I think people shouldn't be expecting you from, coming up with the best idea as you start there. They understand you're new. You come from a different background. I get the imposter syndrome, and I think it's normal when you've made a change. Let's say if in 5 years you still have that imposter syndrome, then you should be concerned. But as of now, it's totally normal. And again, I think she should remember why they chose to hire her to join the team, despite her not maybe having that experience, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's why she was given the raise. It's not because she just got hired. It's because she got hired for the skills she acquired in the previous place, right?
Well, yes to all of that stuff. I think there's a couple of things at play. One, when you're younger, 6 months or a year or 2 years feels like a long time. It's not a long time, those numbers I've mentioned. 6 months is nothing. Honestly, it takes at least a year before you start to feel really settled. And I think 2 years feels different, and then et cetera, et cetera. So like anything under a year, like, the basics of the office, maybe. I mean, you can certainly discern if an office is a terrible place to work at pretty quickly if you're smart. But like in terms of getting situated really and being part, like really, you feel like you're part of the office and you feel like you're contributing. You feel like you are one of the team. You're not an outsider. Forgetting the skill level kind of issue of imposter syndrome, but just feeling like you're not an outsider anymore. And this is my desk. I do belong here. Yeah. And no one's like looking at me like, why is this person here? It takes a while for that to happen, like a year, period. Especially when you're younger. So that comes into play. I think also, first of all, for this individual, anyone who gets a raise and is making probably good or decent money, I don't know the numbers, but I'm going to guess that it's decent. It's not anything tremendous. No one in architecture is making like a tremendous amount of money as a salary. If you're like this person, you feel an imposter syndrome, it probably says more about you than it does anything else. Meaning to say that you're a very considerate, kind person who is sincerely worried about whether or not you're having a positive impact on other people. That says a lot about the person. Like most people will get a raise and be like, yeah, awesome, fuck it, I don't care if I deserve it or not. I have the raise.
Or they feel entitled, and of course I deserved it. They don't question it. And why would I have to do any more work than what I've been doing?
There's a lot of that.
It was meant to be. So I think it says that she's thankful for what she's been given, and she wants to make sure that she kind of gives back, from having gotten that raise. So that makes sense.
And then in terms of experience and knowledge, it also ties into the timeline and how long things take. Any office, who hires somebody, they know your experience level. They've done the research. They have your resume.
They have your resume. They know where you've worked before. And if they choose to hire you despite you not having that specific typology experience, that's on them.
And there's more room in practices that are larger size it's easier for them to hire people based on their talent, skill, and personality rather than specific experience. That tends to be harder to do in a small practice. In general, I'm saying, because in a smaller practice, you need people to be productive like quickly. Maybe not day one, but like after a month, you got to be productive in some meaningful capacity. In a larger office, because of the finances and workflows and whatever else, it's easier for the office to say, this person's talented. They don't have the right background. I don't care. We're happy to sink in months of time with them for them to get up to speed. Because it takes that long anyway. And that's just part of it.
And sometimes you get hired also because of your personality. I mean, let's be honest. The experience is one thing, but who you are as a person and how you're gonna fit within.
How you're gonna fit?
The French
I said,
accent.
what did I say? I said, what did I say? I said, droove.
You said a word the other day, and I was like,
I drewed to Central Coast, and the person I was speaking, was it you or someone? I said it twice. They were like, "What's wrong with you?"
You said something to that. You said scaffolding or something like that. You said it weird, and I was like,
quarky.
I was like, you said it twice, and I was like, I thought the first time the tongue was just doing something. Then you said it twice the same. I was like, I don't think you know the word. So,
I know diagrams.
So
okay?
you might not get a raise.
I see the world of diagrams. Words are secondary to me.
But I think that's also something that employees and should know, is that you're not only hired, and sometimes you're not even mostly hired for your experience. You're hired for who you are as a person, how you're going to fit within a team, and what you're going to bring to that office. Besides, like, okay, what software do you know and what projects have you worked on? Because if you have the right personality, the right mindset, you're the right match for, that team you're joining, it doesn't really matter what project you're going to be working on. Like, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And I think that should alleviate the imposter syndrome too, is that you're going to learn those things. Like, you're going to be surrounded by people who've been working on those projects for years. They're going to show you the ropes on how to approach those things. Like, you get it. It's fine.
This reminds me, I've been in offices where there are people, this is kind of pushing your idea of further beyond what you're actually saying. I've been in offices where there are people who are like really not very productive. And I don't think they were very good at their job either. But you keep them around like you have the office dog, it's kind of like, I mean, it's like they're part of the walls now. Like, you can't imagine the world without them. You know what I mean? You're sort of not wrong, right?
Right?
They're there because they bring a social value to the office, and yes, they are productive. They do the grunt work stuff, but they're not actually bringing real like working value. But it's like if they can do the tasks that need to be done that no one else is doing, and also they shape how the office feels as a culture. And then that office functions better, everyone's happier. That's actually worth a lot. And I'm not saying that this person is that way or that all offices seek that person, but I've seen it before, and it's just an example of, like, to your point, but to an extreme degree, like, it's really not just about skill set. If it's a certain, body of people that are in the office, if it's like 3 people, then no, you can't afford to have the office dog be an employee. You have to have a certain, number of people for that to happen. It's
kind of like, again, like you take a movie, like there's the main cast and then there is like the supporting actors.
Yeah.
Well, again, sometimes though, you do find like some dusty supporting actors that you could, not keep around. You know what I mean?
And oddly, sometimes those people are paid the most.
Well, yeah. The question is, did they get lazy after a while, or were they always like that?
The other thing too is from an employer's perspective. Again, for larger work, especially, they think of employees' contribution to the office and their life and timeline with the office on a much, much bigger scale. So I was recently speaking with an architect who does education schools. They do schools, and he was remarking, and any architect would agree with this actually, that their most expensive line item in your spreadsheet is the people, and the most, and even more specifically, the thing that costs you the most is when you make a bad hire, or if you hire somebody, good or bad, and they leave after like 6 months or a year, that basically means you lost 6 months worth of whatever you're paying them. And then you have to do more research to find someone else, which taxes your people. Maybe there's a recruiter involved, like maybe. And it's a lot. Maybe I'm not helping the stress of this person, but it's a lot of money to sink into a person. And so now I'm making the opposite point of stressing this individual out. But what I'm trying to say is that like 6 months is not a big deal. I'm guarantee your office is concerned about like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year mark, and that's where they're seeing you go. That's what they have in their mind. They're not concerned with, oh, you didn't know this thing this last month because you just learned it. They don't care about that. They're thinking, how are you going to perform in the future?
But there is something, when you're young and you're starting in a new place, like the fear of the job being taken away from you after you got hired if you don't perform well. And I think it comes back to, like experience in school. Growing up, where you have to get the good grade in order to get to the next round, right? And it's kind of like am I on the line if I don't show good work? Like, am I being constantly evaluated for what I'm doing?
What's interesting is that recently, I don't know when this is going to come out, but we had Andy Bernheimer on the show. It was just me in that interview. It was talking about...
You don't need to rub it in my face.
No one's rubbing anything. But that was about his office forming a union. And you guys will have to listen to the episode to get his take on it. But one of the benefits of a union, which is not the first thing people think of, is it creates total transparency between the two sides. The sides being the workers that are united, and then the leadership of the office. And there's transparency because they make an agreement and there's a formal contract that's between them. So it's all there. So you don't have this fear and concern, as much of it, because it's all on the table. Like, transparently what both sides want. You come into agreement and you've agreed to that. That's what it is. And then you revise it, I think, every 3 years or something like that. But you're right, though, especially when you're younger, there's always this thing of like, it's like, the boss is leaving. Do I leave now? Do I not leave now? He asked me to get coffee, or I got coffee for him, but he didn't like it. What does that mean?
Yeah, and I feel
you're trying to read between the lines, and it's, I don't know. It's kind of like if the concern is being axed, right? Being fired, being let go. It's like going to happen if it's going to happen. It's to be honest, it's kind of outside of your control. Like, if it's because you don't have the skill set, that's their fault. They hired you. They should have known better. If the work stops, that's probably not their fault and not your fault. If you suck, that's your fault, but it's probably baked into who you are. Like, it's kind of just going to be what it's going to be. That's not to say people should be lazy, but for the folks who are stellar, like this individual, if you were to get let go, I've spoken to this person a few times now. I would be like, I can almost guarantee without hearing the story, it wasn't your fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hopefully they provide some reassurance to this individual or others who are good people, do good work, and are smart. Like, it doesn't work out, there's not really much you could have done about it.
I think it's hard too when, you join a team and let's say the rest of the team is around your age. And they've been in the firm for a few years. They obviously have more experience in those types of projects than you do because you just joined. And you kind of feel, like indirectly compared to them. Or you at least compare yourself to them, and you feel like, it's not like an internal competition, but it's more like I'm not as good as they are. It's kind of a... I don't know. I don't know if I have a question there or anything to say, really. But
well, the worst thing you can do in that situation, if you feel that way, is to close up and then to fake it till you make it too much. Yeah. Everyone has to fake it till they make it to a degree. That's just how it goes. But if you let that change how you think or let it prevent you from asking questions, then it's a problem. I think the asking questions thing is a point, because you ask a question, you're afraid you're going to feel dumb. That's always the case with anybody, right? And but you have to ask questions, and actually proof that you are dumb is if you don't ask questions, to be honest.
Yeah.
Whether it be with the relationship between employees and employers, or from like our office to consultants, or consultants to like everybody. If we're not asked, if whoever it is not asking questions, either that means they know all of this and they don't need to talk about it, which is like really clear. It's that'll be communicated, or they don't know and they're not asking. And that's a major red flag to everyone else who's older and has been through all this many, many times.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no way you don't have questions, you know?
Yeah, and it's actually a missed opportunity in, like, learning.
Yeah. Well, I said it before openly on the show. That was my mistake. When I was younger in offices, I was really afraid of being let go. Not because I was a bad employee. Some of the offices I was not a great employee either. We can talk about more of that if you want to. But it was, I was afraid. And I felt like with I always fought really hard to get the...
You should have asked. You should have just have played dumb and just asked a bunch of questions. And then one day you show up like really smart.
No, I agree. But I didn't do that. And actually, I don't know, I didn't think about it until now, but the question that this person's asking, is sort of similar to what I felt like. Not because I felt like I was being overpaid. That was never, ever the case. But I just felt like it was going to be revealed that I don't know as much as I should know.
I think we've all experienced that at some point in our career.
Yeah.
In the younger days.
Yeah. And so I would shut down, or I was more concerned in roundtable conversations. I was more concerned with making sure I hold my position as someone who appears to have a certain amount of knowledge, and be kind of like self-preservation, rather than being concerned with learning things.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I mean, I've had the imposter syndrome probably every time I switched office, because of the fact that you're starting...
Because you're French.
Because the fact that you're starting in a new place, right? And you're like... it's like you apply, you get the interview, like you're like, very like convinced you want to get it, you're the best and whatever. And then you start and you realize you're like, everyone is up there and you're down here because you're just starting in that place.
Yeah.
And but I remember, and I think I probably asked way more questions in my first few jobs than I did in my last ones. Mm-hmm. Also, because there is a lot that I didn't know when I started. But again, I think I mentioned that before. I used the fact that I was a foreigner as an excuse to ask questions about everything.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, I didn't know a lot of stuff because of that. And I felt like in order for me to feel more confident and less of an imposter the next time, I needed to learn those things. And, some of the stuff, like I can figure it out myself, but some of the others, like it's faster for me to ask someone.
Yeah, no, it's the better way to do things. And also, I think... for myself, one of the turning points that occurred was you go along, you realize like, oh, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. You know what I mean?
Like, make a word section, and you're like, what is this? Well, I don't know. We just put it on the drawings.
Like, aren't you like the senior project manager in this office?
Okay.
I mean, obviously the older folks know more information. In general, they do. They quantify
by default, yeah.
They quantifiably know more things, yes. But it doesn't mean. But so like relative to you, they know more stuff. But relative to the industry, everyone's babies. You know what I mean? Like it's compared. Like the way I would describe it is that, okay, so when you're a 7-year-old. And you meet a 9-year-old, you're like, oh my God, a 9-year-old? I can't talk to the 9-year-old. They're 2 grades above me. Ooh, they have their own thing. They have their own way of talking. They have their own
facial
friends.
hair and whatever.
At 9. Yeah, and their voices do. No. Yeah, so you feel that way, and it's true. The 9-year-old knows significantly more perhaps than the 7-year-old, right? But relative to a 40-year-old, you're the same. Shut up, you're the same. And it's kind of like the same thing. But in my example, when it's translated, I would say, the 7-year-old is like a late 20s, early 20s, and the 9-year-old is like a early 40s. like, it's a 20-year gap or whatever, but still you're so close relative to the full body of knowledge of architecture, design, construction, permitting, all of that stuff. Like, all of us are trying to figure it out. And again, every project throws at us like just random new things that we have to solve.
I mean, as an architect, you will always, in a way, always have the imposter syndrome because you're always learning.
Yeah.
But I think the asking question is one way to kind of like get that feeling to go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
As well, if you feel like an imposter, you have to learn the stuff that won't make you an imposter. How do you do that? By asking questions.
Yeah.
And I think, and if you don't feel comfortable asking the questions to the people of your age because you feel like, oh, they're going to think I don't know, but I should know because we're the same age or whatever, then go ask the old guy in the office.
Yeah.
And because everyone was young and everyone started with those same feelings and the same lack of knowledge, and they know that you have to acquire it one way or the other. So,
Yeah, it's tough. I think also it depends on the people around you in the office. If they're cool, that's a lot easier to feel comfortable.
That being said, though, you can't be asking questions all the time about everything because then you don't want to sound like you really know absolutely nothing, and people are going to start questioning, like, okay, what is exactly this person doing here?
Well,
so there's some research you have to do on your own. There is some knowledge you have to try and acquire by yourself.
True. The way I would draw the line between the two is, well, it's one way to do it. If you're asking questions that you could easily solve on your own within 5 minutes of trying, 10 minutes of trying, then do that. So where my mind goes is I've seen there are people in offices, their mode of operating is to ask everybody for help, but not in a good way. It's like they ask, like, where's that file? It's like, no, I don't need to tell you where the file is. If you don't know exactly where it is in the master folder, spend 2 minutes and use your brain and be like, okay, I'm looking for site information. Go to the folder that says site information and go to the survey. But
are you quoting me here?
But I've seen in offices people do that, right? And they get in that mode and they're always asking those questions.
Yeah.
And it's like, you actually don't need someone's help for that. And that's a dumb example. That's a simple example. But even more, it applies to more complex things, right? Like, okay, this is a new problem. It's not my example of finding stuff on the server, but it needs to be solved. Like, at least take a crack at it first or something. It's the people who just constantly ping everybody for questions, and everyone's like, I'm trying to do work, man. Do your work.
Like, you cannot be wasting other people's time in an office because you don't know stuff. Like, at some point, you have to figure out yourself. You have to problem solve by yourself. Yeah.
Well, that's tricky too, because again, to this person's situation, if they don't know anything about these things, I mean, I actually think it's worthwhile, again, depending on the culture of the office, depending on the types of questions they have and what they know and don't know, is you just pull aside the project manager, the director, whoever, and you say, hey, look, I'm feeling kind of confused. I've got like 30 questions to ask. Can we set aside half an hour, and I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions and just bang it out and be done with it, rather than trying to drip feed it, because I don't want to feel like I'm asking too many. Like, just get it done in one sitting. And to be honest, I never did that, but now that I say it, that makes a lot of sense. Like, let's set aside an hour and hit it all.
But I think it's hard for people, especially again when you start at a new place, to admit clearly that you don't know stuff out loud. But it makes total sense. And if, depending the size of the office, depending who hired you, depending how comfortable you feel with talking to the upper people, I mean, even, the message we got could be something that she brings to, I don't know, one of the partner that hired her.
I wouldn't bring that message exactly, but...
No, but I would be like, hey, look, I feel like there is, things I don't know, I need to learn, or like, And now, a quick break to thank the sponsors who support the second studio. Architects, design leaders, founders redefining the industry. If you want to shape not only buildings, but the businesses behind them, this is your moment. Future London Academy's Executive MBA takes you inside the boardrooms of Pentagram, Uber, Zaha Hadid Architects, and Google, where you will master finance, strategy, and operations from the people who already excel at them. Study alongside peers, transforming the industry worldwide, and do it all in just 9 intensive weeks over 1 year between London and California. Award-winning, transformative, crafted for design and architecture leaders with 15 plus years of experience. If you're ready to grow your impact, apply now by tapping the Future London Academy link in our show notes.
Offices, if they're good, they love employees who are proactive. It's the thing is, what they're describing, this person is dividing. My words are all over the place. I'm tired, I guess. What am I saying?
Who are you?
What they are describing is in some way a universal human experience at offices or in other places as well, like we're talking about. And it's an example of something that everyone goes through, but no one really talks about out loud because they're afraid to or whatever else, and no one does anything to try and solve it. So if we were to think like, well, how do we solve it? Well, I think setting aside time with the director and saying, hey, just give me like some guidelines or some understanding of these things. I'm going to come up with questions and be proactive. I would almost guarantee that director, project manager, if they know your experience to date and they aren't blindsided, because they, if they think you've had 5 years of experience in whatever thing and you don't, they're going to be like, wait, what the heck?
Yeah.
But assuming they know who you are, they're going to be like, actually, that's a really smart idea. We should probably do that with all people we hire who don't know these things. Let's spend a time. It's the same thing as saying, it'd be the same thing as bringing someone into a project, regardless of their experience and skill set, into a new project part way and be like, okay, go. No, you wouldn't do that. You'd have a kickoff meeting.
But that's often what happens when you start an office, right? You join a team, you're being put on a project, you barely know any background about or so much, and you're expected to start producing stuff. So in a way, what you describe would make total sense. And as a business who have new hires, that should be part of the onboarding procedure is to, okay, let's have a meeting, let's have a crash course. Look, you're being hired, you don't know that typology. I'm going to have X person from the office give you a half-hour presentation on one of our projects so you understand like how we approach it, how it typically works, kind of like the main things,
Yeah. Well, presentation is one thing. I think more question-led conversation would be more productive.
Well, that too. But let's say she's never worked on, I don't know, designing a school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I personally would love to understand how you approach designing a school, the things to watch for, the things to keep in mind, how, because how else could you start designing? How else could you start producing stuff?
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, that's why
and as a business, it is not efficient for you to have a person trying to figure out the basics for like a week or two, where it could have been clearly explained in like an hour by someone who's been doing it like 500 times.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. That's why we do certain things in our office the way we do them. I think like there's this tendency, again, whether it be from employer to employee, or someone starting a new project or starting with a client, like whatever the relationship is, there's a tendency for everybody to just like want to start, like just to get into it. And it's dumb. I'm like, no, let's take a minute, take a half an hour, whatever, just like understand what we're dealing with, think about it, and then move forward. And
but I think that comes from, the excitement of doing that thing.
Yeah.
The impatience. Like, who wants to wait the morning after Christmas to open gift when they are like under the tree? I mean the night before.
Right.
like why?
Yeah, but it's not Christmas. This is project.
Yeah, but it's kind of like people get excited.
But it's not a good way of operating, because you end up missing things which cause big problems. Or again, people are floundering because they don't have basic information they need to.
Thinking clearly.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. And so I think people are sort of pivoting. People kind of sometimes are surprised at clients when we start working. We're like, let's take a beat. Let's like have conversations, do some analysis, think, whatever, and then we go. They're like, why? Why can't we start drawing? I'm like, because there's like 1,000 variables involved, and they all trickle down in different ways depending on so many each other. So no, we're not going to start just drawing stuff. And we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in an office. Like you can't just drop someone in and be like, here, go. It's like super unsettling, and they don't have any context. But so my main, I'll probably call this person, I suppose, but my main response, which maybe is not helpful, is just don't worry about it. Because also,
well, look, I think it's a good sign that she's aware of that feeling. I think that's a good sign that she's aware that she needs to perform, for the compensation she's been given. And it seems that she will try hard to perform well. So eventually,
I think they would have done it anyway with this person. But so the other thing I was going to say is, it's all relative, and it's based on context. If you come from a place where I'm making stuff up now, but you're working long hours, you're underpaid, you're not treated well. Again, not their situation necessarily, but that's the case. I mean, I had that experience where I was working in an office where I was treated fine, but was severely underpaid, super long hours, like just craziness. Then I transitioned to an office where we got off at 6 p.m. and I was paid also, I'm not going to say that it was bad, but I was paid like twice as much as the previous, no. What was I making before? 12? Like 3 times the amount.
Yeah, but
and
it
was
still below.
And it was still below.
Which is another thing.
But,
like, she says she got a raise, and that's great. But then you also have to know, like, were you hired at a lower price? And so the raise you got it. Did the raise you got is because you're bringing value or you've been doing well? Or is the raise you got because they hired you for so cheap that they feel bad about it and bump you up to like a normal number?
First, from the perspective of the person, when you make a jump like that, it always feels weird. If you're concerned at all about your performance, it's going to feel that way. But again, you only feel bad because of your relative experience what you had before. If you had actually come from a legitimate office anyway, you'd be moving across and you wouldn't have these concerns, I think. It's also true what you said, more from like the employer's lens, that I also later on got hired by another office, I got the number I've asked for, which tells me immediately, like, they were like, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay. And so I was at a small architecture office previously, was paid okay, asked for a raise. They gave me only part of what I wanted. I'm like, I've been here a while now. Like, I need more than this. I jumped to a different office, a much, much bigger office, got a good chunk more money. Then I got a raise, actually quite recently afterwards. And I was like scratching my head. And then I realized, like, I think everyone else has been making more than me this entire time.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's about what's relative. And by the way, also, for any one of these industries, and this is not the employer's fault, because employers and partners at offices also don't make a lot of money. All of us in the profession, again, we're not talking about big money in the larger scheme of the world.
Which is crazy, again, for the amount of work that we'll do versus other industries, like, it's disproportionate.
You shouldn't be greedy as an employee because you should bring value to the table, but like, you shouldn't feel bad about making probably okay money or decent money. Like, we should all adopt a mentality of, I wouldn't say wanting more, but being okay with more, because the more in our case is like below average relative to the rest of society. So,
well, and that's a problem if you compare like how much architects make versus how much people in the tech industry make. It's like the patrons who pay for those salaries, are like $1 billion company on one side versus like single homeowners on the other side. Like, it's kind of like, that's why there's such a gap, right? Like,
partially,
like our offices are not funded the same way that those other offices are. So it's
it's a
hard
different
to catch
structure.
up, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
okay. But do you still feel like you have an imposter syndrome right now?
That's a great question.
Something that goes away? Like, now you have your own office, you're not an employee. Do you feel like you have an imposter syndrome?
That's a really good question.
And
or like, when did you stop? I'll answer the question, but when did you stop feeling imposter syndrome?
I think I stopped once I got more technical knowledge on projects. Like
Okay.
I felt like, okay, now I can use complex technical terms and I know what they mean.
Vapor barrier. Our
and I know where they go on the
values.
wall section. So I feel more legitimate.
Mhm.
I think like during my younger days, I think that's what happened. Like,
Sure.
but I mean, I was going to coordination meetings on, skyscrapers with consultants, and I had no fucking idea where things were supposed to go.
But in those meetings, a lot of it is just...
And at the 50th meeting, you know exactly how it works, right? It's like, it's like going to the gym. It's like lifting weights. Like you can't pick up the heaviest weight in the room the first hour you start in training.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to put the time to get to that point. So I think you just need a little patience.
And you do realize, to your gym analogy, or even your other one with CA, that actually in the long run, and long run means not necessarily 20 years. It does mean that, but it could mean also just 3-5 years. In the longer run, the success of an individual and their productivity and their positive impact on the office and the world has to do with how they operate.
I was just going to say
It's
that.
not really
it's not about the knowledge itself. It's
at a single
about
point in
how
time,
you're going to approach the situation to, get to that knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the gym thing is actually a pretty good one. Like the more consistent you are, you have to be consistent. Consistency over the course of from 6 months to a year, its consistency will outbeat everyone else.
Yeah.
If again, the mode of operating in the professional setting for architecture is that you're good, smart, trying hard, all that stuff. That's what it's really.
That being said, I feel like I feel like a lot of architects are going to feel the same as I do, is that I feel like I always have somewhere at some point during the week the imposter syndrome.
Interesting.
Like, I don't know, it could be like you go to an event and you feel like you're the imposter at the event. If you compare yourself to, like, I don't know, another architect or another office, well, you feel like you're an imposter, right? Like, I think it's also like, if you measure the success, like your own personal success with other people, I feel like that's where it usually gets triggered.
Yeah, there's something about ego that comes into the fold at some point, I think, with the imposter syndrome.
And I think it's healthy to have, from time to time, just to keep yourself in check. Because if you don't have it, you never really, I don't know, look at criticize yourself or like assess where you're at.
See, I disagree with that. Well, first, to our question of when did imposter syndrome fade away and fully disappear or mostly disappear? It's for me, I'm trying to think, would it have happened? I guess there's different levels of
or like
it fading
when we got
away.
licensed, for example, I felt less of an imposter because I'm like, okay, I went through.
That's true. Yeah.
It.
So I think there are.
I have the title.
I think there are checkpoints. One of them is I technical knowledge I could certainly see. Because before then, it's like looking at the Matrix. You look at drawings, you're like, what is going on? Everyone's using these terms. You're like, yeah, sounds good, guys.
Look at
good
the
meeting.
detail. You're like, yeah, where is the frame?
What are these squiggly lines? That's insulation. So does it look like that in practice? Like what are we doing? So I agree. So there's kind of like,
that's actually another
is,
topic would be interesting to talk about, like how things get represented on drawings versus how they look like in the real world. Well, and that's a very interesting.
Yeah, so
it's like an alphabet. It's like its own language. Not to deviate.
It certainly is. And I think as much as we like to promote the design and philosophical value of architects, because I think without those two things, not much else really matters. The technical offerings, it's like so critical, assuming the GC follows the drawings. But anyway, so I think there's checkpoints. There's like the technical knowledge, and you feel more at home or at ease. Getting licensed is another big one. It's weird, right? Because it means nothing really, but there's a weight off the shoulders.
You're going to upset people when you say that.
Well, we can have a whole conversation about being licensed or not licensed. And then, but like when it truly disappears for me, I think it probably had to do more with having our own business. It's different for me as well because I'm the one that's out more than you
I
are.
was gonna say, like, I still feel like an imposter because I
don't.
haven't built, like 100 homes.
Yeah,
I don't
I
have
don't.
enough gray hair, although I have more and more.
Yeah.
I still, look somewhat young, thankfully.
Yeah, so getting older does help with that naturally.
Yeah.
We've talked about ageism plenty on the show, and I still look very young. I look slightly older now, but 4 years ago, even now, people think I'm like in college. I'm like, no, I'm not not in college. Getting older does help, but I think for me, because I'm out more often, if I were to analyze it, the reason why I don't have imposter syndrome, and this might sound like whatever, because I don't give a fuck. And I don't give a fuck because I've measured up everyone else in the room. I know what they've done and not done. Sometimes they've done amazing things and a lot more than I don't care. It doesn't matter. That actually doesn't matter. They're going to perform better than me. And if they do, then so what? The only thing I can have control over is my capacity and then my potential in doing that. And I'm going to do it to the best I can. And I know it's good. So I don't care. And in every situation, every meeting I step into with new people, new potential clients, new GCs, new lenders, new whoever it is, new site, whatever, it's all new. And at some point, it doesn't feel new. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. What's up? What are you doing? Okay, yeah, you have a lot of money to spend. I don't care. You know what I mean? I was actually talking to a colleague and friend who's a GC about this. And he's younger than I am. And he's like, I'm fearless when I go into stuff. And I think it's more because he's been conditioned to be very business and marketing savvy. And as a person in the office who does most of that, I think that's what makes you feel like less of an imposter. You just get used to hustling is not the right word.
Well, I think it's
negative.
a social interaction. You have a lot more practice run on that front. So therefore, it makes you more confident.
Yeah.
And that's where the imposter syndrome comes into play, is the feeling of being confident.
Yeah.
Right?
And again, you realize that whether or not this relationship is going to work, you do realize it's not really about skill set. If it is, then fine. It's not out of my control, so why would I be concerned about that? There's no imposter syndrome for not knowing something I don't know. Why would I be worried about that? But the things I have under control, if I feel like I'm doing them well, then I have no reason to be, worried.
Well, and if you're not pretending to know things you don't know, then you shouldn't feel as an imposter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, it's the mentality. Although, I don't know if necessarily you would say this, excuse me, to a client who doesn't know anything about these how this all works. The mentality is, we'll figure it out. Okay, we'll figure it out. So yeah, no, imposter syndrome. I'm trying to think of what would happen that would cause me to feel that way within the professional setting. I think also, I'm not a big believer in the spirituality of the world and things falling in certain places. But if you're at the table and someone's has allowed you to be there, then you're supposed to be there. You don't need to question whether or not you should be there. You were invited to be there. You were hired to be there. Mm-hmm. You were asked to be interviewed by this person. You were approached to say, hey, can you do a tower? You're like, yeah, sure, we can do a tower. You were invited. You've been accepted. So there's no reason to feel like you don't belong. You were invited. You're supposed to be there. So yeah, that's how I would look at it. Do you feel this? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think, I mean, not to be psychological here, but I feel like it also probably comes down to how people were raised too, and do you feel like you deserve what you got versus you don't even question if you deserve it or not? What was your upbringing as a kid?
Yeah.
Those types of things. I think that does, in a way, carry, throughout your career and your adulthood. That's why people are cutthroat and just step over other people, are super competitive and have no remorse, no bad feeling about it. And some others are constantly doubting, feel like they don't deserve things. I think all of that comes back from, the first days of your lives at some point. Which doesn't mean it cannot be changed, though.
Well, that's according to someone who has a degree in psychology, so we should listen to what? Yeah, you don't know that. Maybe it's baked in.
I do think that you can influence. Maybe you can change 100%, but I do
Okay.
think that the choices that you make and the routes that you take would allow you to be able to change a little.
Okay, change a little. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Or completely, it depends.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Walter White is a good example. I've been finishing not Breaking Saul. Fuck.
Breaking
My words are all over the place the last 2 days.
Oh.
Better Call Saul. Yeah, so
I think, she's been working at the new office for the last 4 months. It's still fairly new. Just keep doing what you're doing. Work hard, do your best. Stop worrying about that stuff. All get into place.
there's so yes, I was also thinking there's something about like the confidence that you exude when you don't allow the imposter syndrome part of the brain to take over too much. And confidence, I mean in a positive way. I don't mean that you're again faking till you make it too much, or that you're bombastic, or that you're confrontational, or like all this stuff that people do to have fake confidence. I don't mean that. But I mean you naturally just exude a presence of confidence because you are confident in what you're saying and your skill set and what you know you can do. And so I think that's a very valuable thing to have, maybe more from an employer's perspective than less an employee. But I think for everybody, it's a good trait to have. I don't think it's a bad trait to have to have the presence of someone who's confident. And it doesn't mean that you're closed-minded. It doesn't mean that you're saying you're always right. It just means that you are comfortable in your own skin and you're comfortable with what you know and don't know and your potential. And I think the potential is a key part of it, because the way I think about, I guess, myself, or I think anyone else should think about themselves, in terms of like the imposter syndrome and confidence and all these things, I actually don't think it's about what you've done in the past and your current knowledge. It's more about what you know you could do if you had this task in front of you, that the potential to do it. Right. I've never designed this exact thing before, whether it be a building type or a new house. Every house is different, or it's a campus plan, or like whatever it is. I've never done it, but I'm totally confident that we will do a good job of it. Or if we want to back it up a little bit, I'm confident we will try as hard as we possibly can to do it. And I'm also completely confident it'll still be better than the vast majority of other people who would take a crack at it. So
that's another way to trick yourself out of the imposter syndrome. Is instead of looking at the people next to you who have the knowledge you don't have, look at the people maybe further away from you who do not have that knowledge.
Well, you could do that
Look
too.
at the receptionist and be you know what? They don't know how building works. I do a little bit, so therefore I'm not an imposter. No, but you gotta trick yourself once in a while.
You could do that. I guess I was thinking more like internally though, like, if you look at yourself as a current person, that's one thing, but looking at that future self is a different thing. And you don't want to get too crazy because you get into la la land, and you kind of like should not believe in yourself too much to a degree. Like you need to keep yourself in check, like you were saying. But I think it's more about that like projected figure that is what matters the most, because that's what actually people, that's what they want. They want someone who knows like, okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
You should have been a life coach, David.
Well. Yeah.
That's the least enthusiastic answer.
So yeah, I don't know if we have time for another one. I think
I don't think we do.
We kind of
I don't think we do.
Covered this one pretty extensively. Okay, well the other 6 people who text, you'll have to wait another 6 months for the rest.
Well, we should follow up with Samantha Smith and see if she's still at the same firm or not.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a part 2 of this discussion. We don't know.
Yeah. Guess what?
She went back to the builder.
Yeah. So I don't know if I have much else to say. Their own experiences, or was there anything specific she said that we just completely missed? You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I think the thing she said is that she has only been able to contribute a few small ideas since she started. And I think, again, patience, and sometimes getting the right ideas take time,
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would expect anyone who's starting to a new office to come up with like the best idea in the first month of them
I'm also
working
curious,
there.
like what ideas mean, like design ideas, because that's a hard thing to pitch if it's a different typology and you're younger. Like design ideas are like I wouldn't. So let's say it is design ideas that is what we're talking about. I would really put no pressure on myself if it was a junior designer to come up with design ideas. Like you're really, again, 6 months or a year just absorbing, and it's not to say that you shouldn't try to contribute or that the office should not ask you to contribute, because it's always good to be in the mix. But like, it's just hard because, again, every decision we make, there's like half a dozen other things that are floating in the back of our mind, and we're weighing the pros and cons, which are always varying based on budget, schedule, structure, taste, program, what the client likes, the day of the week, like all this stuff. And like, it's impossible to thread between all of those things and have like a really good design idea that weaves through all those things as a person who's new. Like it's just unlikely. So if it's a design idea, then I don't know. I wouldn't fret if you haven't been able to contribute in that way. It's just learning. I mean, I the way I would look at it is, so it is weird because then when you're making good money or you're making money, it's weird because you're like getting paid to learn, Yeah. And it feels like the opposite. It should be like you're giving something and then you get money for that. But when you have nothing to give, you're like, why are they spending tens of thousands of dollars on me? Which for a younger person is like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but you're in training in a way.
Yeah,
like, I think the worst is when you're being paid at an office and you have no work to do there.
It's weird. It's like it's a boredom thing,
It is when the hours feels the longest. It is such a weird and unpleasant.
Those were always the worst days for me when I had nothing to do.
Oh, I would get, I don't know, so fidgety, and it's just, I would have been like, give me the vacuum, give me something to clean, something to do, because sitting and pretending, when everyone else is working and like, I don't know, your project got put on hold, but you still have to show up to work because that's the right thing to do. There is nothing for you to be doing. Like, it's just, I don't know. Worst feeling.
Yeah. So,
and as an office, I don't think that should ever be allowed. I think there should always be like a backup thing someone could do than sitting in a chair for 8 hours doing nothing, because
that happens when there's bad management or there's middle. I mean, once every few years that happens. I mean, like, just leave. Just go. Take a walk in Bryant Park. Just get out. Yeah. Just like go to the beach. Because why? Why be here in an office environment if you're not going to have anything to do? But I think it happens a lot. There's bad management somewhere in the mix. But I would maybe just adopt the mindset of like, that's a school again. You're going to try as hard as you can, contribute when you can, but you're mainly there to learn.
Yeah.
And that's actually how you're going to be the most productive for the office. It's quicker, I think. Yeah.
All right, give us an outro.
Well, thanks for listening, I guess. This is...
Yes.
We have a podcast? What am I saying?
We have a podcast.
I don't know. I'm so tired.
You think that don't know we have a podcast?
We have a podcast, in case you didn't know. No, we're on Instagram. Second Studio Pod is the handle. We have a website, Second Studio Pod. Reach out to both of those. Reach out to us through both of those places. Follow us on Instagram. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, probably whatever. I always say, well, I think on our website it says we have Google Play, and someone told me recently, there's no more Google Play. I'm like, well, whatever. We're out there.
We're on iTunes.
Yeah, there's no more iTunes. Like, whatever, man. We're out there. You get it. You get what I'm saying. But this is the type of stuff where like younger generations, like these people are so old. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, because I don't care. Like, we're out there. There's the player stuff that's out there. We're out there. What is it? Walkman? Whatever the thing is that's out there. We're out there. You know where it is to find it. We have a hotline, which is 213-222-6950, which I believe the notifications do work now. So if you message, then we should be able to answer
Within the next 2 years.
Things, yeah, within the next 6 months or something. That's it. More stuff to come. Thanks for listening. If this spurs on questions from people, then please do reach out and we'll answer offline or online. And that'll be that. Good?
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.